Hello everyone, I apologize that I have not done recording in some time. I need a small break. Anyways, I have a lot of information about computers and I think it will help others. Unfortunately, it will take a few recordings to do that. With that in mind, I'm going to focus on solid-state drives today. My reasoning for focusing on solid-state drives is because I'm starting to see a need for them. Before you could squeak by with a hard drive or whatever, but now games and streaming has just gotten to a point where it's harder to do any of that on just normal technology. Solid state drives are becoming a necessity at this point. So I've pulled up a few models here at Newegg for comparison. You can see that I've got two Western Digitals, a blue and a green, the Crucial MX500, Samsung 860 EVO, and then a Patriot Scorch. The Patriot Scorch is the only one in this list that's not a SATA 3. There's a reason I did that, and I'll kind of explain why. So you'll notice that when you're looking at all these different numbers, that there's going to be some ups and downs. Obviously, the Western Digital stuff is not going to be as good as the Crucial MX, which is kind of surprising given that they're relatively the same price. So the Crucial MX compared to the Samsung 860 EVO, you'll start to finally see a difference in that. You can see that the numbers are plus or minus 10 on the top two, and then down here in these two numbers, that's when it starts changing. It will get to plus or minus 2 to or so. Yeah, no, 2 to 2, yeah. So finally, when you get over to the Patriot Scorch, which is the only PCI Express over here, that's when the numbers jump really far. You can see that it goes way up by a difference of over 500. So the reason for me talking about this is because I want you to be aware of the different M2s. M2s come in different versions, and as you can see, based on their versions, that they have a difference in speed as well as brands. The brand type also affects this. So that's why I always say that the Crucial MX500 is the best in budget solid states. It's because it just has a solid number output as well as having a good cost and lifetime. This one down here, MTTF, that's probably the only one in this chart I would be concerned with. I'll link this Tom's Hardware article for you to read, but basically it means mean time to failure. So this one has 1.8 million hours of MTTF, which is half a mil more than even Western Digital. That says a lot. But outside of MTTF, then your next biggest thing to look at is costs. Given that this is becoming important for gaming and streaming, you're going to need the most space for the cost. From what I've seen, it's the Crucial MX500 series or the Patriot Scorch that has been the cheapest lately. Both have good reviews on them, and I can recommend either one. However, I would prefer to stick to a Crucial MX500 if I can help it. That's just because I've dealt with Crucial MX500s before, and I know that they are a no-hassle type of drive. So there's that. Now, there's one other thing I would like to do besides point out the differences in numbers and types and brands and all that. So we're going to hit back on Newegg. And now I would like to just reset this entire thing. What we're going to do is we're going to uncheck M2. We're going to go to 2.5 inch. And let me just make sure I don't have anything any other things checked. No, I don't. Okay, good. Okay, we're going to apply. Okay. Yeah, we're going to skip past all of that. Let me see your Patriot Burst. Not what I'm looking for. Yeah, you can just see that there's all kinds of M2s and 2.5 inches out here, but hopefully I can get down to... Alright, let's skip ahead 3, just see if it gets me to where I need to be. P and Y... Ah, here we go, we're finally getting somewhere. Now that I'm starting to see the Western Digital greens, I know I'm on the right track. Hopefully it won't take me too many pages to get where I want to be. Here we go, finally. Okay, this is where I wanted to get. So, 2.5 inch is another form of solid state. So let's go ahead and just briefly talk about the differences between these two before I get into 2.5 inch. So 2.5 inch is something that has to be installed into the case of the computer. Cases normally come with a 2.5 inch and a hard drive bay. Or the drive bay will be a combination. It can be modified to 2.5 inch or normal hard drive. So that's important because the M2 is what screws into the motherboard. You plug it in and then you screw it in. The 2.5 inch, because it's screwed in the case, the way it connects to the motherboard is by SATA cable. So that's a huge difference. Now, the 2.5 inches aren't going to be as fast as PCI Express solid states, but they are going to be about as fast as some of the M2 solid state drives. This is important to know because not every motherboard can accept multiple M2s, at least if they're SATA or PCI Express. Some motherboards are set up in such a way that they can only accept a single SATA or PCI Express 3.0, and then their second M2 slot is PCI Express 2.0. I don't see any PCI Express 2.0s within a reasonable cost. So that means that the only feasible slot on the motherboard is the one that says SATA and PCI Express 3.0. Okay, now that that's explained, 2.5 inches, because they use the SATA cable rather than the M2 slot on the motherboard, this gives you a little bit more options. You can do what's called AHCI, or at least the equivalent of AHCI. I mean, there's different names for it, but the short version is AHCI means that the drives are working independently of each other. It's the complete opposite of RAID. RAID is when hard drives are working together. Obviously, I would never do RAID, just by preference, and for other reasons too. I would prefer to work with AHCI just because of the drives working independently of each other. With that in mind, there is actually, right now, a way to increase your overall storage cheaply by going all solid state, and that is pairing a 2.5 inch with an M2. The way I've been doing it lately for other people is I'll use a Crucial MX500 500GB model in the 2.5 inch, and then I'll do a 250GB M2 Crucial MX500. What I will do with the two Crucial MX500s is I will put the operating system, the drivers, Steam, Origin, Firefox, and all that on the 250GB M2 solid state. I'll put all the games on the 500GB 2.5 inch solid state. What that allows me to do for another person is that 500GB is purely for games. There is nothing being stored there besides games. Everything that's important is on the M2. That's just how it's configured. So essentially I have 500 dedicated space for games, and then 250GB dedicated for everything else. That's just how I've done those setups. Now, if you're not a gamer or streamer, then you don't need to go that crazy. If you are just doing stuff like office type of stuff or that kind of basic stuff, then I would just recommend sticking with just an M2 solid state, assuming the motherboard accepts that. My reasoning for using just an M2 solid state in an office computer or whatever is because of the cables. Because an M2 connects directly into the motherboard. There's no need for a power cable and a SATA cable. It just connects as is. Whereas these 2.5 inches do require a power cable plus a SATA cable. So these end up adding to your wire management to-do list, I guess you can say. You do want to cable manage just enough to where you know which cables are which when you open a PC, just to make maintenance easier. So that's just kind of some things to think about when messing with solid states and how you should plan for your setup. But yeah, that's really the most I have on the subject. I hope it does help you with your shopping.